So, Chris, I think it's your turn to give us a cold open of some kind.
Why do I need to do a cold?
Because I'm always starting it. People want to hear your voice at the beginning.
I don't know if that's true.
Chris, what do you think?
I'm a different Chris.
There's a different Chris here, everybody.
No, it's just me, but with a deeper voice.
She's got one of those like voice modulators.
Yeah. It's all AI.
Hello, this is Untitled Podcast with Art. I'm Simon.
And I'm Chris.
And welcome back for part 2 of our episode on Velvet Buzzsaw. If you haven't listened to episode 1, go back. And thanks for... If you haven't listened to episode 1, you should go listen to that one.
Yeah.
Now, before...
Immediately.
Yeah, like none of this is going to make sense until you do that. Or maybe you've seen the movie and just want to jump in here. You live your life. Anyway, joining us again is our friend Chris Scott.
Hello, hello.
Chris is from the band Layers and Layers. That's the music you hear at the top of this episode.
Oh, yeah. Which song did we end up using?
I think it's tight, tight, tight.
Tight, tight, tight.
It's tight.
Way to describe this movie. No plot holes or dialogue problems here.
When we left off, Pierce and Dan Reich were looking like they were about to set themselves on fire for some hot Dease at the Hayes Gallery Dease opening.
It's so much Dease. It's like Dease opening?
Dease opening.
Would you like to attend Dease openings?
So at the opening, Rodora decides it's a great time to tell Josefina that they're moving half of the 1,000 Dease pieces that they have into storage to remove them from circulation and create scarcity. Josefina seems a little taken aback by this. Rodora's like, what, they don't teach you this in art school? And I just have to say, Josefina's reaction is a little stupid. But also, they do this all the time. People do this all the time. It is a basic fundamental of the art market.
Why is there so much art in Switzerland?
Exactly.
Sorry, not officially in Switzerland, but in a free port. That's a part of Switzerland, only in a geographical sense.
Yeah, so to bring it to modern, current events.
Are you saying that scene in Tenet is a real thing?
Yeah. The art, there's an art warehouse in that movie, right?
That's real.
Yeah, there are these places that are like outside of general tax jurisdiction. I mean, it really fits with, Switzerland's whole thing of like, we see no evil. Put your money here. Well, we'll take care of it.
You can park your assets here.
But the idea is that if you put valuable art there, it is forever in transit because it's always in the port.
Yep.
Therefore, you don't pay any import-export fees on it. So a lot of very valuable, famous pieces just sit in art storage in Switzerland. You can visit them as galleries. So there's little like office rooms in the front. And then if you're the right person with the right money or the right collector connections, you can go and have a little tour of all the famous pieces that are kept in this climate controlled warehouse where no one else can see them.
Interesting.
People with money who want to invest it in art, which historically has appreciated quite a bit. You don't pay taxes on it. Who cares if anyone sees it? It goes in the fancy art warehouse.
And we see when they're planning exhibitions and stuff with Gretchen, she is trying to get pieces exhibited specifically to raise their value.
Right.
And then once the value is raised enough, it'll go into art storage for God knows how long. It might be brought out a few times over the next few decades to be exhibited in some museum somewhere for a tax write-off. And then eventually it will be sold at auction.
Yeah, the tax write-off thing is interesting. I think you pointed this out to me where you'll go to some museums, like seen some of these at the Brooklyn Museum, almost any museum where there is a show that is based on the collection of some big name celebrity or collector.
Yeah.
And the timing of that show usually has to do with there's a tax break if you show this work every so often.
Yep.
And they donate to the museum, so they get the place to do this. I mean, this movie is quite cynical, but like it's not, the cynicism isn't totally baseless.
I will say this movie is trying really hard to prove its bona fides, and it does a really good job of it. On one hand, the dialogue is cringe and tries so hard, but on the other hand, it does its research and it understands the economics behind the art world and how work moves through the system.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, one of the characters makes the point, what's the point of art if nobody sees it?
Yeah.
And the answer in this movie is always money.
Money. It's literally just to make money.
People likely buy and trade art like stocks. They stay in the same storage spot. It's just the ownership changes.
Yep. And so one thing I wanted to kind of highlight that happened this year is that there were a bunch of headlines about a lost Gustav Klimt portrait sets a new record for going at auction for $32 million. It's been uncovered, blah, blah, blah. This piece was not missing. The people are publishing articles that the auction house sent out that says like, oh, it was missing and here, now it's found and it's on auction. This piece has been in a vault somewhere, collecting value, creating scarcity like Rodora is doing here. And the longer people think it is missing, the more it is going to be worth. Like, never mind that it's a Klimt. The fact that the piece has been presumed lost is creating value for the piece. And so finally, the owner brought it out to say, look, it's here. Buy it now, please.
I mean, this is why database and inventory systems are so important.
This is why you need FileMaker Pro.
This is why they must all use FileMaker Pro.
We need FileMaker Pro.
That's why you got to archive, catalog, establish ownership, and monetize.
Exactly. Otherwise, you lose your Klimts. And how do you make money off a lost Klimt?
Yeah.
Well, you find it again.
Yeah.
Raising its value.
The Gustav Klimt in question that was missing was Portrait of Fraulein Leiser, 1917. I think this is a gorgeous piece. I'm glad that it maybe will be on display again one day. So Bryson the harasser who can get you tickets to the Brood, not the Broad, is supposed to be driving the work to storage. He pulls up into some like industrial area. There's like, I don't see like a self-storage place anywhere. I see a lumber place. He cracks open one of the crates that is just filled with Dease, but it's not packed well. And it is not up to archival standards. I will say that.
It's a wooden crate with just like a bunch
Loose
of rolled
paper.
canvases. Yeah.
It is not oh my God, that work is going to get so bad.
Yeah.
Most of the archival training, I think, of the person who packed it was begot from Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Make it look like it's filled with Nazi gold or grog on a pirate ship.
Yeah.
So Bryson seems to have decided, like, he sees the work. He seems to become, like, maddened by it. He's going to set himself on fire for it. So he decides, well, literally, he decides he's going to make off with it instead of delivering it. He's driving on some back roads outside of LA when we see the painting sitting in the passenger seat move. It's very creepy. It's actually extremely cheesy.
It's really cheesy, yeah.
He lights up a cigarette while driving and catches himself on fire because the dummy had a painting sitting in his lap.
Not a cigarette. He is lighting up a joint.
Oh, is he? Okay,
yeah,
I didn't know this.
It is definitely a pre-roll. And also, he goes deep into that pack of Marlboros to get his like pre-roll joint.
Okay.
Like he opens the top and like he
chewing it out.
It fully mouths like every filter in that box.
Incredible.
I just need like 7 cigarettes at once right now.
I'm committing crimes.
So he drops that joint.
He drops it, and the painting in his lap sets on fire, setting him on fire. His shirt is on fire. He's trying to put out the flames, and he looks in the rearview mirror and sees Dease staring back at him. He crashes his truck into a service station and goes inside to get help.
So this is the point where I realized, the pitch for this film, it's Final Destination, but art.
Yep. Final Destination.
Like
Art
the way
Basel.
they die is just some weird Rube Goldberg and some like slight supernatural stuff that just kills people.
Honestly, that would have been better than what we got.
Right. But also, not that Final Destination really tries to meet a mark of realism, but I looked it up. Oil paint's not really flammable. Like that stuff, he drops it on there, boom.
I wonder
his
if
crotch
it
is
was
on fire.
covered in something else, like some kind of varnish or something that might have been more flammable.
Yeah, I thought the paintings set themselves on fire because remember
they were setting themselves on fire.
In Dease's apartment, the painting starts to like crackle or whatever. And I had the same question as you. What is the overall horror belief?
Yes.
Is Dease a murderer who keeps killing through his art after his death. I really wanted to see like who is the big bad.
I know.
Because the mechanic of how people die through the rest of this, like Morph later on keeps saying like anyone that's profited from his work, like he's trying to set out the stipulations of where you might be in the crosshairs of being subject to a Dease killing, but he doesn't really set up the motivation. It's very unclear.
Yeah. At the end, they set it up like, oh, these people buying a piece on the side of the road are going to be subject to the curse. And it's like, well, are they or not? We don't get to establish.
Or is the garbage guy who sold it?
Is that? Yeah, maybe
Jake,
it's him.
Jake Gyllenhaal's character said anyone that has profited from his work.
Even for $5 when it's clothespin to a chain link fence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gonna get it.
But I mean, okay, yeah, good point about the art kind of burning in the apartment. So really, Josephina saved that whole apartment building, saved hundreds of lives. But doesn't matter. She profits from art, so she's going to die too. But oil paint, when it's dry, not dangerous. Look this up on Utrecht Art Supply. The point they make is, if that were true, why would we have oil paintings all over our walls? Like, okay, let's just have these fire starters all over our houses.
Yeah. The lab tech later does say he used some interesting materials, so I wasn't sure if maybe there was a varnish or something, or some kind of top coat he was using. Nevertheless, he ashes onto his lap where there is a painting. It bursts into flames. There is something supernatural going on for sure. It seems like maybe, as you're kind of talking about, Chris, what are the rules of this world? Dease can his spirit can harness the flame, because in the opening scenes where she's in his apartment, it's in a fireplace that we can presume was once lit. Maybe there's a little bit of energy in some sort of like wood in there still that he can harness to light the images on fire. Maybe in the case of him ashing onto his lap and blowing up into flames, Dease's spirit is also able to harness those flames. We do know that Dease was institutionalized because he set his father on fire. So maybe there's something a little pyro-y about him.
Did he set him on fire? Like, I thought his background was him and his dad were the reported only survivors from a house fire that killed his sister and his mom. His dad was abusive.
Yep.
Dease was taken and went to an orphanage. When he got out of the orphanage, I think he went into the military and was discharged soon after or something like that. I'm screwing up the timeline, maybe.
No, that's all right.
And then he goes back and he murders his dad.
He tortures him for days, murders him ultimately by setting him on fire.
Okay.
We learn a lot of this through slow shots of old timey photographs, and then a bunch of like asylum shots that look like they're from, I don't know, like 2010 CSI or something.
Silent Hill?
Yeah, exactly. Silent Hill. Like, legs strapped to a gurney, twitching, and the lights flashing, and it's all green. Or like a Disturbed music video or something.
Oh, yeah. And they had talked about the fact that when he gets institutionalized, they experimented on the inmates and stuff
they're
like that.
shocking them and stuff.
Guinea pigs.
And I was like, I forget what the word is, but his origin story is a little muddled because it's like, did he get turned into like a supernatural psychopath by the experiments? Was he already a psychopath?
I know. Like,
what's the deal?
I even had the thought of like, wait, did he set the house on fire that killed maybe he was a pyro who tried to kill his whole family. Or maybe it was the dad who was also abusive. We don't know. It's very muddled.
What's Dee's deal?
What's the deal? So Bryson, he's trying to put out the flames. He sees Dease. He crashes his truck into the service station, goes inside to get help. He heads towards a sink, turns on the water to soothe his burns. Over the sink, there's a painting of monkey mechanics working on a car with a little plaque with the title Grease Monkeys. Who wants to do a cold read on the Grease Monkeys?
Did not notice that plaque.
Yeah, that plaque is I mean, I'll let Simon do a cold read, but to me, it might as well have been dogs playing poker.
It's giving dogs playing poker.
I mean, yeah, you're right, Chris. It's dogs playing poker if they were monkeys playing with wrenches. I don't know what else to say about it. Yeah, there's like an old car and one of them is hanging out, waving a wrench around like, hey, boys. And the other ones are like throwing cards down because they're probably playing some kind of high stakes gambling game. Is that what it looks like at a mechanic shop, at an auto body shop?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. This seems racist.
Okay. Sure.
Why are they monkeys?
Well, I will explain why they're monkeys.
Okay.
Why is it over the sink? Why is it in a service station? These are all questions.
Yeah, Bryson sees this painting over a sink. Why is it over a sink?
First, we're going to go back to the Middle Ages.
Taking the scenic route, all right.
Yeah. I just want to talk about the symbolism of monkeys in art. So, according to Olympia Gaia Martinelli for Artemisier magazine, in the Middle Ages, the monkey began to be perceived as a vicious caricature of man so much that he even came to personify a kind of stand-in for the devil, characterized by highly sinful peculiarities, including, above all, malignity, lust, gluttony, idolatry, falsehood, and dishonesty. In fact, the Christian iconography of the Virgin Child of the time also began to accommodate the figure of the primate, which, placed at the feet of the Madonna, stood for the submission of falsehood and the power of the deities. So, on one hand, we have bad monkeys.
Seems unfair to the monkeys.
Yeah. And fast forward a bit, monkeys dressing up like humans and doing people stuff is so common in art that it actually has its own word known as singerie.
To be honest, monkeys dressing up doing people things is really funny.
It's very funny.
Y'all ever seen a monkey smoke a cigarette?
Yeah.
Incredible.
It's French for monkey trick. And I put in a bunch of different examples in here.
That seems racist.
It does. We should cut that.
Against who? The French?
That's fine.
The monkeys?
No, coming up with a word singerie that's literally monkey trick.
Monkey trick. I mean, as long as we're not applying it to people, but I bet we have.
Yeah.
I bet it's been done.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
Post-Middle Ages, monkeys begin to take on a new meaning in art. They're often used to satirize or comment on human actions and social dynamics, the bestial or the primitive side of human nature, things like contemplation and curiosity. So you'll see here, this first image is called Allegory of Tulip Mania by Jan Bruegel the Younger. Simon, you're Dutch. What can you tell us about Tulip Mania?
Well, everyone in the Netherlands up until about 1902 was just a monkey.
Yeah.
According to this painting.
Uh-huh.
I mean, Tulip Mania was the big tulip early stock market bubble of the tulip market that mostly came from Turkey, but they were sold like crazy in the Netherlands. And this seems to be a depiction of that with monkeys instead of my ancestors.
Yep. What do you think the artist is trying to say by showing your ancestors as monkeys?
I think they're trying to talk about... I feel like this is a leading question. What do you want me to say about about the people,
what
about
do you want to say about
the culture
Dutch?
you married into?
I think it's important to note that none of the monkeys are wearing pants.
Yeah.
And they're all Donald Ducking or
Have you been to the
Porky
Netherlands?
Pig.
Tony the Tigering.
Yeah.
We're all too tall. We can't find pants that fit us.
No.
Somehow when we anthropomorphize animals, we're just like, they don't need pants.
Well, there's
Some
the
of
whole
them are
discussion then of like,
wearing
which are the
tunics.
legs, which are the arms?
Yeah, but others are not. Under that, we have an Edmund Bistro piece called Before the Monkey Duel, which is so cute, you guys. Look how that monkey looks kind of mad, and their little hats are so cute.
Well, their eyes are so expressive. One of them seems to be pissed off, like, why aren't we dueling yet? The other one's like, why do I have to kill?
I don't want to.
He's just like me. He's also not wearing clothes except for a hat.
There's a little monkey kind of in the background that seems like it might be a concerned wife or girlfriend or something of the dueling monkeys.
I feel like the concerned monkey is just asking the regal monkey what the rules are of the duel.
Yeah, could be.
He's like, so are we on 5 or is it 5 then go?
Walton Ford as an artist who works with animals today, who brings in that century tradition. And the last image.
This one, the Sensorium one, looks like it is a mockery of the Last Supper.
Oh, yeah, it totally is. We should kill them.
Okay, which one's Monkey Jesus?
The one in the middle.
That was in the middle, yeah. The one in the middle who is just going to ham on that mango.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever heard the joke of like asking about the Last Supper, why nobody sat on the other side of the table?
Oh, yeah. Why nobody?
Why didn't they?
Because, blocking.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Boy, you're going to love our Olympics episode, Chris.
I'm excited.
Yeah, just for telling that joke, you're fired. Please leave. We cannot joke about the Last Supper in this household.
Yeah, we're worried about getting canceled by the Christian
We
right.
can't make a mockery of the Last Supper.
I'm part of the Christian right, so I can.
Okay, can you put in a good word for us, please?
Yeah. Please tell all your friends we are fine. And
good. We're trying to, control women's bodies. So It's taken up a lot of our resources.
Right. Yeah, you got.
And we can't stand to see drag queens on one side of a long table because we're sure that it is the Last Supper if they're on one side of the table. We told them it was just blocking.
Just blocking.
So the last one here is a Banksy, huh?
It is a Banksy. Banksy actually
Banksy
uses a lot of monkeys in his work, and this one is titled Monkey Parliament.
Now I don't feel like the old ones were so racist against Dutch people because it's also British people here. So
the British, the French, yeah. I mean, it's fine. It's all fine. But you can kind of see like how through history, monkeys have been used to remark on political dynamics, social and cultural dynamics, economic dynamics within society.
It never seems positive. Like, has anyone asked the monkeys what they think of this representation?
I mean, they are also representing things like contemplation and curiosity. I feel like the Walton Ford piece brings a little bit more of that with the, monkeys are having a good time, but it's not so raucous.
Well, then
it's
there's
just
also
a little raucous.
The Bristow one, that before the monkey duel.
Uh-huh.
I have the sinking feeling that this isn't an allegory. This is a documentary painting of someone making his monkeys duel with guns.
Bristow was an
avid runner of monkey duels.
He did create
cockfights, dogfights, too lowbrow. Give the monkeys pistols.
He did do a lot of paintings of just like animals in their natural habitats and stuff, and like life drawing and stuff like that of animals. So there is a chance he was like, give this monkey a gun.
I'm a purveyor of fine monkey duels.
Taking bets.
That explains all the graffiti. Edmund Bristow didn't kill himself.
Yeah.
Wait, I want to amend my previous statement. Premier monkey duel.
Yes.
The first, but definitely not the last.
To be in line with, what was that place in Miami that had the
Art Basel, Miami Beach?
Yeah. Art Basel. It's Premier Monkey Duel.
Bring monkey duels back to Art Basel, Miami Beach and use it to sell tequila or Capital One or something.
Yeah.
The Capital One monkey duels.
Tito's vodka. Capital One monkey duels.
I think we can all agree, though, that whenever a monkey is pictured, at least for me, the interpretation is it's stand-in for either childlike, so it has the curiosity, or idiotic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's never like, this monkey is here to represent someone who has some sort of high learned brain function.
Which is interesting because humans consider monkeys to be the smartest of animals because
Next
they are
in
the
line.
most human-like. But we also then consider them like, well, they're pretty dumb compared to us. So,
Well, I feel like we made a lot of progress in this area. I mean, look at all those Planet of the Apes movies that have been coming out.
True.
According to that, if we're taking those as fact,
Yeah,
even if monkeys get into power, they're going to treat human beings the same way that human beings treat them.
Right. So we should just kill all the monkeys.
Yeah.
Give them all pistols before they figure out how to use them too well.
Yeah.
Apparently, when you get high intellect, you want to subjugate everything.
The monkeys are going to get guns eventually. We better make some money off of it first. Put them in the dueling ring.
But maybe giving them guns is the problem in the first place.
Monkey gun control?
This is our platform.
Monkey gun. Not my
There.
Second Amendment.
No guns for chimps, gibbons, nothing.
That is a violation of their Second Amendment rights.
Well, those idiots never thought to write a constitution, did they?
We need background checks on anyone named Bubbles or Candy Shoes or whatever another chimp name would be.
Yeah, no.
What about those tiny ones that like Ross had on Friends?
The IKEA monkey that wears the coat.
Oh,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Asian monkey.
I don't
Maybe a
remember what his
Derringer.
name is. You could have maybe like a slingshot, a bow and arrow, or some kind of set of knives.
That's going to be our first merch, ARs for gibbons.
So all this monkey talk is to say, One of the monkeys in the Grease Monkey painting moves, and the painting is alive. They reach their little monkey arms out, grab Bryson by the hair, and pull him inside the painting, never to be seen again. And that is a wrap on the worst guy you've ever met.
I wrote this down, and I realized it doesn't really make any sense, but I kept thinking, Bryson gets Jumanji'd.
He does get Jumanji'd.
He gets killed by monkeys, but the monkeys that come out of paintings in Jumanji.
We don't
they come out of a
actually know
board
if
game.
Bryson died technically. He might be
disappeared. He's one of the monkeys.
He might now be repairing cars in a monkey painting.
Oh, that sounds like a step up for Bryson.
I mean, yeah.
He gets pulled into the painting. Do we ever get a shot of him depicted in the painting?
No, because
that's unsatisfying.
Why was there an oil painting?
Yeah.
In a gas station bathroom.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Don't think too hard about it.
Yeah, they go and investigate the crash site, and there's no mention of a painting there. Is there? Do we see the painting again?
Well, they're just at a tow yard. They're not like at the actual site
never mind
of
then.
it. But yeah, that would have been so satisfying to see like an investigation where they're like, oh, look, his truck, it's burned out. Oh my God. Oh, we're looking all around here. And then pan to a shot of the painting and you see Bryson with a wrench in hand working on a car next to a bunch of monkeys.
Because of that scene with like the monkey arms reaching out, I'm going to bring my own do not cross tape to museums, and any painting there's a monkey, just measure out like an extra 6 feet and put more tape around it.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, also in your mind, Chris, if you got an extra shot in the movie and we got the resolution of seeing Bryson in the painting, what would he be doing? Because in my mind, he would still be terrified. He would be stuck in like a frozen terror state by the monkeys.
He had like half his skin burned off then too.
Yeah. Well, maybe I don't know what the laws of this world are, but maybe he's better. Maybe he's sitting in the front seat of the car, like window up with his hand on it, looking out terrified something. That would be good.
I would have thought you would have said that he had probably accepted his fate in the new monkey mechanic world. And he was trying to get them into the bro. And he was like hitting on one of the monkeys with the wrenches.
Hey.
Like, I glued all those Fruit Loops to that horse.
This is like in 3 or 4 Planet of the Apes movies. Once they get to modernity, that's what's happening.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, Grease Monkey's painting, real or fake?
I think it's fake, but I also think that it is a ripoff of Dogs Playing Poker.
Fair. Yeah, it is a fake painting.
I win.
Yeah, painted
2
by...
2 for 3.
There's no prize, but we'll figure something out.
We'll figure something out.
Let me have this
Created by the VFX studio. And yeah, like we looked at, tons of examples of monkeys acting like people, dogs playing poker throughout history. So now Coco goes to John Don Don for a job interview. I have just decided it's way too fun to say John Don Don, so that is his name through this entire sequence.
I'm going to start calling John Bon Jovi John Bon Bon.
Bon Bon Bon. Bon Bon Jovi. John Don Don, he initially says, like, you're too young, which girl call a lawyer. He just gave you a lawsuit. But she lets him know that she can give him...
He's also, what, 12?
He is 14 max. Give him information on Dease if he hires her, including buyer's list and secret info about Dease being a total psychopath who uses human remains in his work. So, I don't know, maybe we all underestimate Coco. A PI that John Don Don hired to investigate Dease's background stops by to tell him that Dease had tortured and then murdered his abusive father by setting him on fire, and then he was asylumed where the facility used the patients as test subjects.
Also, a little note in that scene, John Don Don says to the PI, and this is all true, and the PI says, it all checks out. And that's the last question asked about any of this information.
The investigator leaves, and John Don Don is alone in the gallery. We see the Dease painting behind him, waiting, watching. A video projector in an installation in another gallery turns itself on and starts playing. Spooky. I will say, the video projector giving Nam June Paik, which
Nam June
I know it's Nam
Paik.
June Paik, but I think it's the gallery owner of Hobo Man guy calls him Nam June Paik at one point, and I wrote that down.
Well, that makes me feel better because we can never pronounce anything right on this show.
I know. And well, we're going to have to double check, but I'm like 100% certain it's Nam June Paik. So yeah, I really felt like this piece, that's a little Nam June Paik-ish. Nam June Paik-ish. Feeling a little Nam June Paik-ish.
So what happens once the projector goes off?
So John Don Don, he heads over to the installation and tries to turn the projector off, but it won't turn off. So he unplugs it and it keeps playing spooky. An entire wall with a door appears behind him and locks him inside. John Don Don seems confused, but overall fine with this. He's like, huh? But not like, what?
Yeah, who knows what John Don Don is on?
Yeah, that's true. The projector is now playing a lot of weird, strange footage that John Don Don doesn't recognize. We can maybe presume it was Dease when he was young with like his mother or something. He's dressed up in a skeleton mask, a Halloween costume, and then the film spontaneously combusts. Again, I think Dease has some control over fire.
This is sounding more and more like X-Men the more we get into this.
Yeah. A light bulb in the installation starts flickering. John Don Don decides that this is the most pressing matter at hand, and not that he has been a cask of Amontillado into this art installation.
Which also, that wall appeared behind him. It's an installation. That wall is made of like particle board at best.
Yeah, you can take
just
right through that.
Kool-Aid Man through that to get out.
Yeah, leave a little silhouette of yourself.
John Don Don shaped hole.
As he reaches up toward the bulb, a hand reaches out and grabs him by his little scarf and strangles him to death. The next day, Coco arrives, coffee in hand, and discovers John Don Don's body.
Poor Coco.
Poor Coco. Attic installation, real or fake?
Do you know, Simon? Am I the only one?
I don't know.
answering?
I've not looked this up.
Okay. I think it's fake. I do want to point out that I feel like this entire death scene is concocted just to punish him for wearing a scarf.
I agree.
Scarf as a tie.
Exactly. Yeah, but the only way he dies is if he decides to take his stupid little scarf and try and fix the light bulb because it's too hot to touch with his hands.
Yeah.
That's it. Could have done it with a sleeve. Could have done it with anything that wasn't wrapped around his neck and grabbable.
I know.
It was literally this entire death scene concocted around the idea of like, scarves are dumb and you should die for wearing one as a tie.
And this was just not scary.
And whose hand was that?
It was Dease's. I don't know.
And where does he end up? Like, does the hand tie up to the truss?
Yeah, it like
at the top.
It tied him to the rafters because people afterward assumed he had killed himself. People at the funeral saying like, "What makes somebody do something like this?" or stuff like that.
Who wants to live in eternity in burnt orange?
Yeah, that's the scene where Morph is just shit talking the funeral to Josephina the whole time.
Oh yeah, and she's fully over it. Like, you see the first cracks in their relationship, the fact of like they've gotten together and they're super heightened by the fact that they've both like been spurned or like cast off lovers they're no longer interested in, and they've finally gotten to the point of where they're together. And she's finally seeing like, oh, being around a critic is awful because he critiques everything all the time.
Critiques the casket.
Yeah.
He's a negative Nancy.
His whole monologue that you hear in VO and also from him as we're walking in, I think you said part of it earlier. Oh, we are just stuck in here, aren't we? What is it with that cheesy organ music? Critiquing the casket as we get a VO on the casket. What color is that? Smog orange? Did he buy it on sale? Imagine having to spend eternity in that. And then when Josephina was like, what the hell? He says, what? I'm selective. What are you saying? Toss out taste and standards? Whisper the truth? What a tragic world that would be.
I love that you can see Josephina starting to crack because like it becomes clear that she was just using him, one, to feel better post Ricky, but two, for his opinion on Dease as a critic who can make or break an artist's body of work. And she starts telling him like, your reviews are falling flat, you're losing it. Then she immediately is like, oh, hi, Damrish.
So are we finally getting to the sex scene?
I mean, the rest of that funeral scene is just...
Yeah, he's dead. We can talk about the funeral.
Josephina
the post
flirts with Damrish, she's sitting next to them.
They go home. They fuck at post-funeral fuckery.
Pierce is there and he's talking to Redora.
Yeah.
And I think he's saying like, basically he's trying to patch up their relationship.
Yeah.
And she's like, he left her for someone else. It wasn't successful. And so she's like, I'll take you back, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she offers him, I did not catch this the first time, I think because I was so mad and annoyed with this movie. She offers him use of her beach house to go clear his head. She tells him to go make art just for him, and he does that.
And that's all we get from him until the closing credits of the movie. So sorry for the little detour. I think we can just go straight to the post-funeral fuck sesh.
Okay.
So
sorry, Mom.
Here are my questions. Simon's mom, you can turn off now and come back in like 15 minutes. I don't know the timing. But, okay.
Oh, you kids think you invented sex.
So they're having sex, and it seems like there's some trouble.
Yeah.
In the sense of, like, they're not
vibing at 100.
Yeah. And, like, apparently the idea is, at least the belief that I think is being conveyed, is that Jake Gyllenhaal can't come. And she asks him, what did you do? Take a Viagra or something. So logistically, this doesn't make sense in my head. So it's like he has an erection, an incredibly strong erection, but he can't come. Why would Viagra do that?
And why would she be mad about it?
Yeah. And so it seems like she'd only be mad if she was done with the sexual experience and he hadn't had an orgasm yet. And so they're trying to negotiate over positions. And she's like, no, I can't do that. I need to be on my back. And then everything is interrupted at a point of when he sees the Dease painting move. But logistically, it makes no sense. Number one, like her critique, and also the frustration around it. And like it.
There are all these efforts to paint their relationship as transactional. And the minute that it grows beyond that, like being seen together at a funeral, it starts to crack. But in that scene, she's got a fucking Dease painting over her bed. What is wrong with this freak? These things are terrifying.
Well, okay,
I'm just confused about why he can't come with this horrifying painting over the bed.
Well, which is the painting? It's the one that's kind of like limbs, right? It's not his creepiest work.
It's creepy.
And also, what do we know of her thus far? She doesn't know a lot about like Dease's past and his psychopathy and stuff like that. Psychopathy. There we go.
I mean, even without that, would you put that painting over your bed?
It wouldn't go over in the bedroom. No.
It's like the John Waters, the thing I heard about John Waters, which is that he had an original John Wayne Gacy Jr. painting that he kept in his guest room just to make sure his guest never stayed too long. Right over the bed.
Didn't he also say that if you
just
go
to make
home
sure my boyfriends can never come.
Yeah. Didn't he also say if you go home with someone and they don't have any books, don't fuck them?
Yeah. I mean, guys got to figure it out.
I mean, he's got mustaches figured out for sure.
But what if they move a lot and have an e-reader? Jesus.
Hold on. Can I see your Kindle?
Yeah.
I mean, at least from my perspective on the film, I don't think he comes. Like he's interrupted by the painting moving, and like he doesn't. He like pushes off in a way that I think would be uncomfortable for both parties. In a way where I'm like, that's not logistically feasible.
Your bodies don't work like that.
Yeah. You don't exit like you're trying to get at a sphere.
No.
I will say about that scene, this movie has made every effort to drain any possibility of chemistry between them out of the scene. But that one goes so hard, it goes around the other way where it kind of works.
Yeah, again, if everyone was overacting, is nobody overacting? I feel like this movie explores that question.
It is a central question that I think we should be asking.
On the second watch through, I do feel like I was like, knowing that everybody is giving it 137% makes me like it a little more. Like nobody is just kind of like going method for this.
I will say everyone in this film seems like they're having fun.
I just want
More than the
everybody to
viewer
have
is.
fun.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of everyone.
So both teams had a good time.
Yeah.
I mean, every set has teeth marks. Like everyone is chewing the scenery. But I mean, like I even had notes about their first sexual encounter that we see because there's an implication that they had hooked up at a different time. And that's when they
Back in Berlin.
Oh,
Yes.
Berlin.
Berlin.
I remember Berlin.
But they had established a relationship. I didn't understand that when she takes his hand and slides it into her dress, he shudders and she shows no reaction. He goes,
Yeah, it's like putting your arm in sphere.
Yeah. Exactly.
you got to get out of sphere. Maybe that sex scene is one sex scene that starts at Armin sphere and ends at painting coitus interruptus.
By the way, I think it's really interesting that in the first sphere scene, we do not see Morph put his hand in sphere. He does not like...
Incurious.
Yeah.
Uncurious.
Yeah. Not monkey-like.
No. Even with that haircut.
True.
This takes us to Death by Sphere?
No. We're not there yet.
Damn, I want to be Sphere so bad.
You cannot keep... I am script master.
Okay.
Because we did not answer the question. Attic installation, real or fake?
Oh, fake. Surely fake.
You said fake.
Oh, I don't remember. It is fake.
3 for 4!
Yeah. And, I really didn't do a lot on this of like in-depth research on what this reminded me of and stuff. Maybe it's recency bias, but this reminded me a lot of the German and Serbian pavilions at the Venice Biennale in 2024. Simon, what do you remember of the Serbian pavilion at the Biennale?
It looked like this big recreation of a part of a village that was like, I don't know, a defunct oil town or something. But it looked very post-Soviet era. There are bits of Coca-Cola here and there. There's like a steam room you can go in. There's all these public facilities. But you're walking around this wood floor with a big sign over it that says Europe, and nothing really works, and everything is kind of old and seems like it's from the 70s.
There's a jukebox that's playing.
There's some
like
brand
70s
things around. Yeah.
Punk. Yeah, big Coca-Cola signs. It's an immersive. And the reason I put these two in is because they were immersive environmental installations where you're transported into a space in order to evoke a feeling. And I feel like we never saw what video that attic installation was supposed to play. And I think that would inform a lot of how you would interact or perceive what, a Katy Perry music video is going to be perceived very differently in that space than some old home movies.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're not really sure exactly how the viewer is supposed to feel it in that space, since we never saw it as, quote unquote intended, though we did because we all watched the same movie. I really love this kind of work. I loved this scene because I love immersive environments like this.
Every detail has attention.
Exactly. And I feel like in that Serbian pavilion, like the way when you walked through the wood floor creaked and the jukebox, the sounds that it made and the textures and things all came together to create the space. And the German pavilion had a very similar thing going. There was the whole German pavilion, but then there's the specific area I'm talking about.
Yeah, there was a bigger room, which had some projections, had something about Kabbalah, I remember, and spaceships, but...
Kabbalah monster.
Yeah. Within the middle of it, there's this little spire. It was like 3 or 4 stories that you go through, and there were all these things made from, I think, porcelain, and there's a lot of porcelain dust. And as you go upstairs, it's an apartment, looks older, and has something to do with the artist's father. I think he worked in some kind of mine. But everything in this apartment, it's meant to look like from the period when his father was alive. And a lot of it's covered in this mineral dust, which is related to what he was mining.
Mm-hmm. The trim around the doorways are broken. The lampshades are dirty. The wallpaper is peeling, and then everything is covered in this dust.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I love that kind of work. I'm a sucker for it.
What did you think of the piece that Knights of Rhodesia? What is that character's name?
Rhodora?
Yeah, Rhodora sits in to...
I loved it.
When she gets confronted by Damrish's collective leader or whatever.
Yep. On the first watch through, I actually thought those were the same installation. I thought that, okay, we're seeing Rhodora sitting in this installation. Later, we see John Ma getting murdered in an installation. And I thought they were like... The boxes were all like they're packing up that installation because this movie made no fucking sense.
I thought that's what it was too.
Yeah. It's 2 separate immersive installations. But yeah, I loved it. And I mean, when we watched it the second time, I was like, this looks just like my house when I was a kid, the one in Hayes Gallery.
Yeah, it looks, to me, I got fooled thinking like, oh, these are characters or whatever. There's something otherworldly about the fact that she walks in to this installation and you're like, oh, she doesn't belong, but everything else in the installation belongs. How are these characters going to react? And then you realize the characters don't react. Right. And then you realize they're not characters.
Well, it looks almost like a sitcom set, right? Of like just anywhere suburban, US in the 80s or something.
Nobody sits on the other side of the table.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And the shot is set up in a way where it's locked on, as if you're looking at the sitcom set. There are people, looks like wax figures, but they're very convincing, on the couch watching the TV. There's some shitty looking teenager wearing a camo hoodie, like boredly looking into the fridge. And then there's Redora's fancy ass walking through this installation.
Yeah, loved that piece as well. Meanwhile, Morph is running around town trying to figure out stuff about Dease. He's discovering all sorts of unsavory shit. Morph also visits the Veterans Hospital where Dease worked as a janitor. The janitor suspects Dease murdered one of their coworkers. And he also visits the lab where Hayes Gallery sends some of the Dease and learns that Dease used human blood in his work. Gross.
The artists, I presume, is what he says. And there's no
Yes.
answer.
But also, interestingly enough, this is not actually uncommon. Mummy Brown was used through 1964, and as the name suggests, it was paint made from ground up mummies. And the only reason they stopped using it is because they ran out of mummies.
I mean, like, look, I know it seems like we have a lot of fossil fuels, but you look at mummies, you got to go Tomb Raid to get those. Like, you lose half of your crew to Prince of Persia traps and scorpions.
I mean, that's my favorite paint to paint with.
Yeah.
It's-
Mummy Brown.
yeah.
The most dangerous paint.
You can still buy, the way you can buy ivory black. Ivory black is no longer made from elephant ivory. It's synthetic. You can buy synthetic Mummy Brown today.
I like the, what's the paint color? Oops, all mummy.
Tickle me mummies.
Wait, synthetic Mummy Brown is just, I know that
It doesn't hit like the real thing.
Yeah, I know it doesn't. There's no way it does. Like, do they mummify like a vegetable
Yeah.
and then grind it up?
Yeah. According to the life and
Sorry. Who looked at a 3,000-year-old corpse and thought, I'm going to make some paint out of that?
Morph.
more Dease.
What is that? Like, oh, what is it? Something orange?
Saddle brown,
Yeah.
like Josephina's skin.
Ooh, mummy brown.
Like, can you imagine if you said your skin, it's mummy brown?
Oh.
Get the fuck out.
You're like, you gotta get to step and morph.
According to
Gross.
The Life and Death of Mummy Brown by Filbert McCope for the Journal of Art and Society, Robertsons of London, which was a big paint manufacturer, the managing director regretfully admitted that the firm had run out of mummies. We might have a few odd limbs lying around somewhere, he apologized, but not enough to make any more paint. We sold our last complete mummy some years ago for, I think, £3. Perhaps we shouldn't have. We certainly can't get any more.
We're in between mummy guys right now. Trying to get Lara Croft's phone number.
Supply chain issues.
Them cruising the streets of Egypt looking for loose mummy.
Well, the reason that they could no longer get mummies is because Egypt realized that they could make a lot more money off of exhibiting mummies as tourist attractions than they could from selling them for paint.
Grinding them up.
Yeah, you're talking about mummy money?
Uh-huh.
Do you think John Don Don would get into the mummy money market?
The mummy money business?
Mummy money market.
Imagine selling a mummy and be like, wait, first, what are you going to use it for?
John Don Don making money in the making money in the mummy. Damn it.
I'm going to grind it up, add oil, and smear it on canvas.
Yeah, I think the important thing here is that this circles back to the talk about monkeys, is that in monkey duels, we need background checks when we're selling these.
True.
When we're selling guns to the monkeys, you need background checks when you're selling mummies too. What are you going to use this mummy for?
Well, that begs the question. What do they do with all the dead monkeys from the monkey duels?
Oh.
Mummify?
Maybe that's
Sell.
what new
Profit.
Mummy Brown is made of.
Synthetic Mummy Brown is just monkey Mummy Brown?
Monkey mummy.
You're thinking of an entire system that monetizes monkey mummies made from monkey duels.
Nailed it. Yep.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. So anyway, even though the movie kind of suggests like this is uncommon and weird, it's actually not. The movie posits that this is some rare, creepy thing, but it's actually, if you were to go take samples from work at any major museum exhibiting work pre-1960, there is a very good chance you would find some human remains in that paint. Icky.
Tight.
So now we are finally at
Sphere.
Death by Sphere.
Death by Sphere.
Gretchen is at Lama trying to secure a show for Minkins, who is Sphere person. The museum is opening a show tomorrow featuring the 12th Dease that Gretchen facilitated them buying, plus Sphere, so that she can raise the profile and valuation of Sphere for her client who purchased it for a few million. Also, Coco shows up because she works for Gretchen now.
Coco works for Gretchen now.
Yeah.
Asks, can I go home and get a few hours of sleep?
And Gretchen's like, yeah.
If you must.
Yeah.
Did you fix the horizontal lighting on Sphere? We did. Run along.
Run along.
I mean, I'm with Morph on this one. Gretchen's a bitch.
Yeah. But so is Morph.
Yes.
To be fair, his critique, not only of art, but also people, have fallen off.
Yes. Coco leaves Gretchen alone in the gallery in the museum, and Gretchen decides to go play with Sphere. The Dease paintings look on ominously. Gretchen sticks her arm in a hole and...
Sorry, hold on. They just leave her alone in this museum.
Yeah.
Like, is that allowed?
Sure, I don't know.
Like, there's no insurance
probably-
liability. I have a lot of insurance questions about this scene, but there's no insurance liability here.
I'm
Like,
primarily approaching this from an underwriter's perspective.
okay. But it's like, okay, you had an argument with the museum staff, and they leave. The lights go out. You're the last person there, and no one gives a shit. There's no security. Like, she could go touch all the art if she wants to.
That's true.
The perks you get when you're a advisor for a private dealer.
Yep.
Collector. Puts her arm in.
She puts her arm in the hole. Initially looks titillated, but then suddenly looks nervous. Her arm, she gets pulled in further. She starts screaming for help, but we start seeing struggle. We see red mist spraying from the other holes before she pulls out her amputated arm and collapses on the floor. And that's lights out for Gretchen. Also, I will say, coolest fucking murder.
It's the best one in the film.
This movie had more of this. It could have been better.
Oh, like ultra violent and super graphic.
I don't really,
Just absurdly violent.
Just absurd.
Yeah.
I think, I think that like John Don Don and Bryson's death were just too cheesy. You know?
And then Gretchen gets her arm Vitamixed by a piece of art.
Yes. I literally guffawed when the monkey hand reaches out from the painting to pull Bryson into it. Like, it's so corny and bad.
Like, we don't know what inside this piece ground her arm up. Like, at the start of the movie, the Chekhov's sphere moment, they say it's got sensors and motors in it. It's
gizmos.
like, they might as well just say gizmos, computers.
She does say gizmos.
Gizmos, she does.
And sensors.
And those gizmos are whatever is in a blender.
Yeah.
So watching this part, first of all, I've had to buy exhibition insurance. And it's a thing that they don't teach you about in school. But when you have an exhibition, they ask, get exhibition insurance. That doesn't cover accidental death and dismemberment. I went on a long search, and my search history is totally fucked now because people think I am like making art that's going to kill people. But just so you know, AD&D is not included in exhibition insurance. That usually just covers theft and damage and liability for the space.
Can you get an accidental death and dismemberment rider?
You probably can. And as an art piece, I feel like it would be fun to just get that and give that to the gallery. Like, and just so you know, I've got this too.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait, what? It's a painting.
It's just a painting.
Yeah, I feel like the installer probably carries that weight.
Right.
Because like you want to protect the piece of art and its value from, getting broken or whatever. But if the art falls off and crushes someone or like a piece, like that's on the installer.
Uh-huh.
As we learned with Bryson, installers are expendable in this world.
Yes.
They are man only of permitted talents.
No. He said the exact opposite.
No.
So
reversoed.
So Chris, what happens next after Gretchen gets her arm juiced?
Cut to the next morning. Josephina calls Rodora to tell her the news about Gretchen. She seems to believe the piece malfunctioned somehow. Some sort of gizmo or sensor malfunctioned. She tells her that Coco had arrived at the museum the next morning, coffee in hand, to discover children playing in a pool of Gretchen's blood, believing it to be a part of the installation. Poor Coco.
First of all, who was letting these kids touch the art?
I know. Even if you think it's a part of the art, the fact that kids were touching it, I mean, my God.
Like, what was that piece called? The squeegee one? Can't help myself?
Oh, can't help myself.
Yeah, like just imagine a bunch of kids like, oh, sweet, a slip and slide and just riding around the squeegee.
That's why it's in the room.
Yeah, that's why they had to put it behind glass.
But I mean, also you got like, what is it, 174 pounds, 176 pounds, where they want you to fuck with the art. But it's more in like a beautiful, like, tribute way.
Yeah.
So what does she say exactly? Josefina calls her Dora.
Yeah.
And she says, a security guard thought it was part of the new installation, so they just opened up and let people in. People just walked by like it was part of an exhibit. And then a school tour came along. The school kids thought it was fake blood and started playing with it. Okay, it's definitely going for shock there. But here's the thing. This actually happened at Art Basel Miami in 2015.
Oh my God.
No one died. It's just a weird story. A woman was stabbed after accusing her attacker of following her around at the art fair and bumping into her repeatedly, according to local media, Miami Herald. The other woman stabbed the victim repeatedly in the neck and arms with an X-Acto knife, an art knife, which just adds to this. So here's the part where it really connects to what exactly we just heard Josefina tell Dora. These are all quotes from the Miami Herald article about this. They spoke to an artist who was showing there, whose work the stabbing happened near. She said, quote, a guy walked up to me and said, I thought I saw a performance and I thought it was fake blood, but it was real blood. In the same article, some patrons thought the stabbing was a performance art presentation. 2 Coconut Grove women sipping champagne walked up to the police tape. When told by a reporter about the stabbing, they expressed shock, like they thought the police tape was part of the installation. More. One bystander said he asked the guard what happened, and he was told that a very expensive statue had fallen on someone. Not what happened.
No.
We'll get back to that later in this piece. And then a visiting sculptor from New York City said he saw the victim being wheeled out, but never suspected a genuine crime had occurred. Quote, I thought a piece of art fell on her, he said. I never would have thought that there would really be a stabbing at Art Basel. People didn't really know what had happened. It was calm and everyone was just milling around and talking.
Yeah, ripped straight from the headlines.
Yeah. Here's the worst, well, not the worst part. The worst part is obviously the injury, the crime. But the CNN article on this had a section heading, Knife Imitating Art.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
It sucks so much.
That sucks, man. I hate that.
It's so surreal to read that. But what it tells us is, if you're going to commit a violent crime, do it at Art Basel Miami.
I know.
You'll have at least an hour to get away before people realize that it wasn't art.
What if you put on like a vest or something that said performer and then just started stealing shit? Like, you think maybe people would be like, all right, fine.
I think you'd at least have some time to get out of there.
I think you would have I think it would buy you some time.
Don't do that. Parody.
This is not legal advice.
There are certain things you expect to happen in a museum, and it's a very narrow span of things. And whenever anything breaks that, it gets weird, which is why they're a good place to do weird art.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anything with volume.
Yeah.
Anything with volume, you're automatically like, my brain and my ears perk up and I'm like, something's wrong. This isn't what should be happening.
Whenever there is that, they at least have the decency to put it in like a room somewhere. Like, did you at the Art Institute see that clown torture piece?
My God.
What?
This video piece in like the multimedia room at the Art Institute. I don't know if it's still up. It was up there like a month ago. You walk in and it's just, usually in there, it's like some kind of quiet environmental video thing. This was 3 walls of video of just clowns pleading for their lives and screaming and laughing at the same time.
It was extremely
like you walk
loud.
in, you're just, nope. Got to back right back out of here. So Gretchen is dead.
She
bled to death, and the kids played with her dead body thinking it was art.
Yeah. Josefina on this call also mentions, though, that they closed the entire wing of the gallery where Gretchen died, but also that the Dease exhibit was blowing up.
It's booming.
But anyway, she says that the Dease exhibition is going nuts, like blowing up on Instagram and stuff. I don't know. So good for her, I guess.
Yeah, that's weirdly her takeaway from the entire experience. Like, that's the headline of the conversation is like, hey, this person that we've known for a long time and is basically a coworker got brutally killed. but also our money-making scheme of that dead guy whose art we stole, it's going very well.
It's like the movie is saying, in case you were starting to build any kind of connection with these characters, remember,
do not do that.
They like money. They don't care about anything else.
Just
Let them die.
Yeah, just in case you thought Josefina has a conscience. She's garbage, just to let you know, which I feel like it feels like an unfair characterization of her because it feels like she is kind of the big bad in the end.
Right, yeah. Morph eventually tries to. He's already trying to make a correction.
Yes.
Josefina holds fast.
Well, yeah, Morph shows up at Josefina's in distress right after the call because of the news he heard about Gretchen. And this is when he discovers she's sleeping with unimportant character Damrish.
Yeah, he comes into her apartment and like starts one of his ridiculous monologues and then turns his head and Damrish is just there shirtless, also chiseled as fuck.
Making waffles.
Making some eggs or something.
Yeah.
He goes, what does he say? He goes like, oh, hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, Morph's all mad. He's like, I thought we were on a break, blah, blah, blah.
Tell me we didn't share something real.
And then
she hits him back with something like awful.
And
I was never
Damrish is
particularly
like,
obsessed.
Damn.
Yes.
Yeah, I was
That
never
is it.
particularly obsessed.
Damrish goes, damn. But before this, Morph says to Damrish, the admiration I had for your work has completely evaporated.
So he leaves Josefina's apartment in a huff. On the street, he's passed by a bus with a model in the ad.
Hold on. As he runs out, he's holding a bunch of Dease canvases. Like, he was like, screw you. We're done. I'm taking these.
I'm taking this. On the street, he's passed by a bus with an ad. The model in the ad turns towards him, revealing it to be Gretchen with a bloody arm stump. And this is one of the many hallucinations he's been having lately, like hallucinating while him and Josefina are having sex and stuff like that earlier. Because of these hallucinations, he is starting to believe that Dease has something to do with it all. He confronts Rodora about Bryson being seen loading his truck up with crates of Dease work. He has also learned that Dease had left explicit instructions that his work be destroyed on his death. He threatens to write a story about the connection between the work and the deaths. And so Rodora starts trying to unload Dease, but Morph publishes the article anyway. Now, we're about to have 3 simultaneous death scenes happening all at once, but we're just going to go through them one by one.
I think it's important to note that Morph's breakup box is filled with murder paintings.
Yes.
Wasn't like, this is my favorite shirt. These are my collection of favorite murder paintings.
This is that DVD I brought over on our second date. No,
These are all the paintings I look at so I don't come too fast.
So Josefina accompanies Damrish to some middle-of-nowhere bar where all of his much cooler anti-establishment biker/art friends are hanging out. She is not having a good time and decides she wants to bail. I did like the part in this scene where she asks the bartender, is my car going to be okay out there? And the bartender's like, what the fuck?
Just to drive home that she does not fit in.
Yeah.
I did like the fact that the bartender said, how the fuck should I know?
She finds a car is blocking her car in, so she calls for a tow. And while she is waiting, this Dease image appears on her phone and she can't swipe it away. It's children playing, or one is like bending over, picking something. The other is looking up towards some hills. And while she's trying to swipe this away, directly behind her, a white cube art gallery has appeared. We know that it definitely wasn't there before.
Wait, do we?
Yes.
Absolutely.
As the viewer, we know that this was not
right,
there before.
Because they're nearby Damrish's collective.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben, who runs the collective, is there. So like that bar is like the bar for all the collective scuzzballs that do not fit into the white cube world.
Right.
And there's a gravel parking lot that has corrugated metal walls all around it with graffiti installations.
Right.
And she is standing in front of one of those, and one of them like sinks into the building.
You can actually see it happening behind her, but it's easy to miss. I had really stopped
watching closely at this point.
It is really easy to stop watching this movie closely. It took me like a third watch through to notice this part. I did know that it wasn't there before, but actually seeing it appear, I didn't notice until a few times in. So Josefina seems to think this is normal and fine. and it was just put there for her comfort. So she heads inside.
Where I belong.
Yeah, exactly.
My people have come for me.
We see she's in the gallery talking loudly on her phone. So she doesn't notice that paint is starting to pour off of canvases around her. The paint is seeping towards her, climbing up her body. She realizes what's happening and tries to run, but it's too late. I will say this is by far the dumbest death.
That's supposed to be Damrish's art, right?
I guess. I don't know.
It's all this, or like the collective art. And it's all just stereotypical generic graffiti.
Yeah.
But put in a white cube gallery. Like
I mean, it's good. It's better than tagging, but it's certainly not like...
One of them says art. The word, it's like tagging words as art.
Did not notice that.
Wait, okay, so do we think that the work in this gallery, real or fake?
I would say fake. It's like middle of the road graffiti art. Also, we need to discuss the logistics of the paint of the paint death, just due to the fact that if it's going to kill her, she doesn't experience any pain and she doesn't have any fear until she gets a visual indication of something that's happening to her.
Does it not like making her cold or something?
Is it choking her? Is it like, it looks like it goes down her like throat or something, like the silver goop that wakes up Neo in the Matrix.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how this is supposed to work.
I also like that when she gets in there, on the point of the fact that she is now with her people, she goes into the art gallery or whatever, super entitled, talking on her phone, and she yells out to, I guess, the gallery steward or whatever.
Yes,
She's like, I'm just here to look at your art.
I'm just waiting
like,
for
I'm
a
just,
toe.
I'm just checking in.
That's what I do every time I go to gallery. I'm just here to look at the art.
Just to let you know.
Well, half the scene, I mean, the scene gets cut back and forth with what's happening to Morph now, but every time it cuts back to her, she's like getting slowly tattooed by all the dripping painting, and she's on the phone still going, Redora, who has clearly not been answering her for the past like 90 seconds.
I know. And then she's like, oh no, I can't move. Paint is on me.
Also, just my humble, stupid opinion, the art in here looks a lot better once it starts running down the canvas to murder her.
Well,
that's creative.
Yeah, we can talk about related work. So I think there are some obvious connections here to Lynda Benglis's poured latex puddles. They're these like, they would cover a gallery floor and they would mix color and things together. Also, there's artists like Jonathan Van Dyke who would create these paintings that would literally like be dripping paint off of the canvas onto the floor. And then, you know, there are notable tagging artists like Futura 2000. I mean, this is mainstream now,
Yeah.
You know,
there's a long tradition of bringing art to the white cube, but there's also a moment in this scene where the art that's inside the gallery looks just like the mural that's outside the gallery.
Yes.
And it's saying something with that.
Yeah. So I think those are all immediate like visual connections, but a piece I wanted to talk about that I feel like got more into like the mood of what's happening and is in a way creepier and scarier is this, again, MVP of this episode, Anish Kapoor, Svalyabam, and it has some common visual elements, but like the mood is what makes it evocative of this scene for me. It's this huge block of red wax and Vaseline paint, estimated to weigh about 15 to 40 tons. It was mounted on a track system that slowly moved through the exhibition spaces on rails. And as it passes through doorways and arches, the wax would be scraped off, leaving these red, almost like bloody streaks on the walls, pillars, the floor. The size of the wax block was often deliberately larger than the passages that it had to go through. So it created the sense of the space being deformed or curved as the piece moved.
Like a big art slug.
It comes from the Svalyabam, meaning self-generated or self-created, suggests that the work was shaped by its own movement through the space. It has been described as an allegory for memory, history, and human suffering, particularly in relation to the Holocaust. This work is shown at Haus der Kunst, a museum in Munich that was created under Hitler's regime. So, you know, trying to evoke that sort of, that cultural memory there.
Right.
And Kapoor's interest in forms produced by forces that modify an object's shape, as well as exploration of color and space and monumental scale, I think also kind of ties in nicely to like what we were talking about earlier with the initial read of Sphere. We're looking at scale, we're looking at space, we're looking at how color absorbs and reflects light to create mood. The work has been described as having this painfully slow creep that reminds me of watching this scene in this movie in general.
So to give a description of what the piece looks like, it looks like a big, I guess we know it's wax block, red wax block, like lipstick or something even, that is, well, shaped like a door pretty much in this gallery space in Munich. And it's leaving a long trail behind it of wax, like a red seal on a scroll or something is what it looks like a little bit. The red also makes it really, really visceral. And do you know how long the trail was? Like how far did it move?
I don't. I just know it went, I mean, imagine probably like 3 different rooms in a gallery or something.
I mean, how much more dynamic and interesting would that Josefina's death scene have been if she just got slowly crushed by a big block of wax coming in through the door?
I would have loved that. That would have been real good.
Because, I mean, she ends up as a part of the work, right? We see her afterwards outside as a ghostly image in the outdoor graffiti. Like
within the graffito.
Yeah. Yeah, the graffito, excuse me, the singular. Not integrated, just like kind of painted over it like someone was defacing someone else's tag.
Yeah.
But compare that to like how Gretchen became a part of the art so much that the kids wanted to interact with it. Josefina just kind of slapped on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I have to wonder, like, why didn't they carry that through all the deaths where it's like you become part of the art? That's interesting. Like, why, you know, Gretchen kind of became a part of the art. Josefina became a part of it. Why isn't Bryson a little monkey mechanic? Why isn't he a little grease monkey? Also, I just wanted to say the description reminded me of Gretchen's arm being modified by and shaped by force and movement. It's an unstoppable force with Sphere. So, yeah, this piece I thought was very, for me, evocative of what happens to Josefina.
It's supposed to be like the big moment because she's,
I know.
I mean, there's more, but like she's kind of, well, she's a main character. And she lasts a long time. Like most of the deaths in this movie, except for like 1 or 2, happened within the last 20 minutes of the film. And it's a 2-hour film.
So long.
And this one does not really pay off.
No, and they built it up so much of her being so vapid that you've gotten to the point of where you're like, oh, she gets what she deserves, but there's no payoff of some kind of like poetic justice.
No.
It's just, I mean, the only poetic justice could be the fact that she's now trapped in the lowbrow thing that she's so desperately trying to escape and avoid.
To be fair, being stuck in that kind of work would be a shitty way to spend eternity.
Is that what happened to all those people we see in murals around town? There's that one in Brooklyn, Portland, Oregon, where it's like a flower blooming into a bunch of like civil rights leaders and Gandhi is coming out of it. But he looks like he's had all of his skin removed because he's painted in pink and white.
That is actually Gandhi.
That's how Gandhi died. Okay, yeah, great. Thanks. Someone should tell somebody.
Someone should fix this. Back to Morph. Now that Josephine is gone, Morph knows that publishing that article is career suicide for him, and he's also losing his marbles. So he decides he's going to put some stuff in storage and leave town. He calls up Coco and hires her as his new assistant to help him organize his affairs.
Coco gets around. Yeah.
I know, Coco. Do not take this job, Coco.
You've already seen how many people you found 2 of your employers dead. Oh yeah, go work for this next one. Why not?
Oh, I think
Third time's a charm.
I think it's the other way around. Like, I don't think you should hire Coco.
No,
if you want to live.
Yeah.
She is the one killing you all.
Someone's not paying attention.
I know. He meets her at some overlook outside of town to give her the job at night, and she is like, this is normal and fine. Also, I have that sweater that she is wearing. And then Morph heads over to his storage unit to do some organizing.
Well, they have a funny exchange right there, though.
This is where she also reveals her motivation for doing work within the art world in Los Angeles is to not go back to Michigan.
Yeah.
A fate worse than death.
I know.
Yeah. Fran Brooks in Michigan
You think she went? It was a Cranbrook
Maybe, and she could not wait to get out and go to LA.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no. This is the scene where Morph melts into like a pool of insecurity, and he's just like, "You don't think I'm losing it," and all that stuff. And then Coco reveals a bunch of stuff to him. The fact that Redora had an arrangement with his ex Ed, who is a personal trainer, who Ed would give Redora early drafts of his reviews so Redora could purchase based on his review information.
Right, and that's
which is
the thing.
why Gretchen had thought that Redora and Morph had an arrangement, and he was so offended before her death.
And that scene, Morph says to Coco, and he's never looking at her once. He's just looking at Los Angeles. They're like at Cahuenga and Mulholland Drive, famous spot for movies. He says, "Have I gone mad?" And Coco goes, "Oh, not to me. I found both bodies. I'm sleeping with my lights on, and if I don't land a steady job soon, I'm going to have to go back to Michigan." Morph says nothing.
Morph says, "I don't think of you at all."
And the last thing she says to Morph in that scene is, "Do I still have a job?"
Yeah. Oh, poor Coco. But also, maybe Coco is a serial killer. We don't know.
Every character in this film is fully self-absorbed.
Yeah. Morph heads to his storage unit to start taking care of some stuff. We see that there is all sorts of art in this storage unit, and I just wanted to shout out the Twombly in the unit. I love Cy Twombly. He's one of my faves.
Oh yeah, Morph, he's just got like a basic ass mini storage. Like it's not climate controlled. It's barely lit. It's got chain link fences everywhere. Like it's not even like a extra space storage.
It's not even in Switzerland.
No, but it's just like one of those ones that you would put your old furniture in that sometimes you sleep in if you don't have a place to sleep. And it's just this pile of craft paper wrapped canvases with the names of extremely famous artists. Like, what is it? There's a Twombly.
Yep.
There's Pershing, 1964. Like, just hanging out in this shithole storage unit off of Mulholland Drive.
Yeah. Well, he looks outside of his storage unit as he's arranging it. And what does he see? Hobo Man.
Hobo Man.
Hobo Man.
It's Hobo Man. And he's like, what? He goes out to kind of investigate. Hobo Man starts making moves. He traps him with his crutches. He slips under, and Hobo Man's ambling after him. Morph's running away, but then gets trapped against a gate, a chain link fence. Hobo Man comes up and kind of like smooshes him, but then also like snaps his neck. And that is a wrap on Morph.
Morph got smooshed.
Morph got smooshed to death.
For the last time.
Yeah, it was weird how they put together the snapping sound of his neck with his glasses.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The ones he definitely needed.
Yeah. The next morning, Coco shows up at the storage unit, coffee in hand, and find Morph's body.
She goes, "Oh, fuck me."
Poor Coco.
Like it's gone to comedy for her at this point.
That is actually...
Michigan must really fucking suck if she's staying here.
Tried to write down the things I actually thought were genuinely funny in this movie, and that is one where she goes, "Oh, fuck." And then also when Gretchen says, "Move the horse penis or vagina, put one inside the other for all I care." I thought that was pretty funny.
I had to look up that line. Like, is this real? Is referencing anything? Like, no, they just wrote that line to like make it sound like museum mumbo jumbo, and that one lands perfectly.
Yep.
When Coco finds Morph, what? The fourth body she's found?
Third? Okay, yeah.
Of all employers, by the way.
Yeah, and like, we're saying it's Coco, but if I were Coco, at that point I'd think, okay, I got to go to the doctor. I might be Mr. Hiding all of these people.
Yeah.
Also, like, if I were the police, I would start to suspect her. Also, when she skips town and goes back to Michigan, maybe she's running from something.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there's no indication that the police are investigating any of these deaths.
No, there's none. We get a little bit of an investigation into Bryson's truck because the people at the impound lot tell us, like, "Oh, yeah, we looked around." And then that's it. There's no police involvement.
Yeah, someone died publicly at a museum.
Yeah.
Nope, nothing. People just move on their lives and like, "Oh, that was pretty creepy."
Yeah. And they're like, "The Sphere did it. Are we sure?"
Yeah.
We might want to look into that.
Nothing.
No. Meanwhile, at Redora's house, creepy things are happening too that night. Instruments are playing themselves, and a big-ass statue outside falls and nearly kills her. And I could not figure out where this statue was from. I thought maybe it was a Richard Serra. Could not find anything indicating it was him or not him. It's a weathered steel sculpture, and to me it looks like a Richard Serra, but who knows?
It definitely looks like one.
There are a lot of people who work in weathered steel, so
I mean, it kind of looks like that installation right over by Soldier Field when you get off Lakeshore Drive at Roosevelt.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
75 standing, like, weird.
Right, yeah.
75 weird women standing in the way.
A lot of these weathered steel swoopy pieces kind of blend together for me.
Yeah.
This one almost killed
Richard
Rodora.
Serra was the goat of weathered steel.
It's true, but she is saved by the swoopy part of it.
No,
she rolls out of the way.
She just avoids it completely.
Okay, yeah.
The next morning, she learns of Morph's death and frantically tries to call Josephina, who, of course, does not pick up because she is now some graffito.
No one painted a cell phone into that mural yet.
No. At this point, Rodora seems to have figured out that the art itself is killing everyone. I don't know how she figures this out, but she hires people to take all of the artwork out of her house. As the truck drives away, she believes herself safe, but not quite.
We know she believes she's safe because she is standing on a cliff, meditating or something, wearing all white.
Well, she goes back kind of by her house and just sits on the ground like she's in that painting that was in her room that they took away.
Mm-hmm.
The Velvet Buzzsaw, which is from her old punk band.
Back before she sold out.
Back when she was an anarchist inventing DIY. The tattoo on her neck starts spinning and she gets a velvet buzzsawed to death.
Which, that one fits along with Josephina. I'm sorry, how did that kill her?
I'm sorry, this is stupid.
The tattoo infected?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, just die of like MRSA or something. It's much scarier to me, to be honest. So Coco's heading for the airport with Dease's kitty cat in tow. She is going back to Michigan. Some people just can't make it in the cutthroat art world. Sad.
She finished her mission of killing everyone she knew in the art world in LA.
Maybe it was everybody who like snubbed her in art school or something. I don't know. Her Uber passes by some down on his luck guy looking to sell some stuff by the side of the road. We see him pull a Dease from a crate marked Hayes, which we can presume was taken from Bryson's burned out truck. We see a couple buy the Dease off of him. Cut to Pierce making sand art on the beach as the credits roll.
So everyone's dead now except Coco and Pierce, right?
Coco,
Yes.
Pierce, and Dan Reish all have survived.
Right. Yeah.
So all the pointless characters.
Dan Reese really vaped his way to salvation in this one.
Well, and Dan Reish gives vibes that he is gonna like perish because he gets weirdly obsessed with the Dease. He's sitting there looking at it all moody, and then Josephina's trying to come on to him, and he's like, nah, bitch.
I have to go art.
Yeah. And then he's like, I gotta go. I gotta go to this biker bar.
If your man leaves the bedroom to go to a biker bar, you might want to have a talk.
Yeah, that's a red flag,
It's a deal breaker, ladies.
That's a deal breaker, ladies.
It felt like to me in the movie, it presents the fact that Dan Reich is saved by the fact that he somehow regains his artistic integrity at the end. And
He goes
they're
back to
like,
his
oh,
collective, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we can't kill him because he's like a real artist again.
But this movie is so inconsistent with, I don't know.
No, the killing rules are totally jacked.
Final Destination
yeah.
has rules. Say what you will. There are rules to that film.
It seems to assign morality to your like artistic purity, but really what spares you is just not having the money or not forking over the money for a Dease. That's the only reason anybody doesn't get killed. So if Dan Reich had been like, I'm going to buy one.
He wants to buy one, right?
He wants,
He wants to buy the one in Josephina's apartment.
He says, wait, why didn't you sell it to me? And she's like, trust me, you don't want it. But like, had he bought it, he wouldn't have been spared just because he's like anti-establishment or whatever.
And if it's that one that's over her bed, he would have never come again.
No, yeah. I know. What a gift.
So the lesson here is, if you're going to buy art, make sure you ask if it was found in the apartment of a guy who was in an asylum and killed his whole family. If the answer to that is no, this is a flowchart. If the answer is no, you're in the clear. Buy that shit and put it in Switzerland.
I mean, yeah, I feel like any basic provenance form should have that on there. Dead guy's apartment, yes, no.
Certificate of authenticity.
Certificate
Won't
of
murder you.
artist was in asylum, yes or no.
Or going back to your underwriter review, if you check yes, there's like a second box that's like, I waive all liability that I might be murdered by this art.
Yeah.
Or you just got to check. I mean, Redora's character pretty much well establishes it of like how to monetize art, archival, curation, establish of ownership. So all you got to do is just, if you're going to buy art, ask if the previous owner is still alive. And if they're dead, ask how they died.
And ask who died around the same time.
Yeah.
Well, this was all fun, but let's talk about the real Velvet Buzzsaw. By that, I mean art that has actually killed people in real life.
I'm so glad you looked into this.
This was quite the rabbit hole I went down.
Oh, this is I am.
I mean, you're what?
Mesmeric.
You're ensorcelled.
I am
I'm ensorcelled.
Beforehand, these are all sad stories. They were a long time ago. It's all pretty absurd. And also, as you listen to these, think about, why did they go through great lengths to make these ridiculous fake deaths in this film when the real stuff has been a lot more scary?
Right.
So let's go through the list. Art that's killed people IRL. Number 1, we were just talking about Richard Serra. In 1971, his sculpture number 3, which was made up of a bunch of 5-ton steel plates balanced against each other. If you click to where I am, that's not sculpture number 3, but he has a number of works that are these big steel plates that are all leaned against each other, almost into a cube, but they're not really fastened to each other. The piece that's most known is called 1-Ton Prop. One of those plates slipped its support, fell on a rigger, one of the art handlers. And the safety slots that would have held the steel plates in check were later discovered to have been shoddily built.
Bryson
did this. He was too good for his primitive tools or primitive arts or whatever.
He was thinking about art. Not tools.
Thinking about how to pronounce brode. Anyway, in the end, it was the fabricators of the actual piece who were found negligent, and the artist himself was exonerated. But yeah, one of those fell on someone and killed them.
You're right. This would have made a much better, like, Final Destination-esque type death than getting pulled into a monkey painting or becoming graffito.
This wasn't the first time that one of Sarah's pieces of work injured handlers. I mean, imagine that. You work with a bunch of these multi-ton big pieces of steel.
Right. You're basically working in construction.
Yeah, it's a dangerous job. In 1988, his piece Reading Cones, a 16-ton sculpture, fell and pinned 2 handlers. The heavy-duty jacks that held them up collapsed. One of them mildly injured, one of them seriously injured. So maybe avoid installing Richard Serra work or be careful. Yeah, watch out for that name. Another one, Cristo, and
was he involved in any house fires?
Richard Serra?
Yeah, has he ever been institutionalized?
I don't know.
Does he have magic powers?
Yeah. What's up with his dad? How did his dad die?
Yeah.
Turns out that scene in the movie where she nearly gets crushed by Richard Serra was just like, that just happened on set. They just happened to be rolling.
Well, when I was reading this, I was like, wait, that has to be a Richard Serra. It has to be an homage to that, but
maybe.
I don't know.
Homage.
No. Yeah, weird homage. Yeah, it's kind of
that would be very ghoulish.
Tasteful.
Yeah. That would not ensorcel me.
I would not be ensorcelled. A derivative, if anything. In 1991, Cristo, who did the work. What's the gateways? What do they call those?
The St. Louis Arch.
Oh, it's just called the gates. It's all the orange arches in New York City in Central Park. That's these large scale environmental pieces. Often works together with another artist, Jean-Claude. They had a piece in 1991 titled The Umbrellas. So similar to the gates, it was a bunch of umbrellas that were placed over a large swath of land in California. Simultaneously in Japan. They opened them all at once. They unfurled them all at once. It's pretty impressive looking. But, California, you're in some canyons. You've got some really, really fast winds. Just about 2 weeks after they opened this up, they unfurled the umbrellas. One of the umbrellas broke off during high winds, flew away, and pinned a woman against a boulder, killing her.
Damn.
Okay, that's like Final Destination
That is
level.
That's total freak accident stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That wasn't the only death from this piece.
Which is nuts.
Which, this was in California and Japan at the same time. So just over 2 weeks later, they decided, out of respect for the victim and their family, we're going to shut this down. during the dismantling process in Japan, a worker operating a crane was electrocuted when their crane hit a high voltage line. Even when they decided to turn that work off, it still killed someone.
That's what?
Since then, there have been other like Christo Jean-Claude pieces that have gone through rigorous environmental and safety verification and just not happened because you guys, we should be extra careful with some of these pieces. It can't be a third.
You're telling me I can't have this installation where people just go in and lick batteries? It's not happening.
I mean, depends on what your underwriter can do for you.
The next one that I have is Maurice Aegis in Britain. He's done this series called Dream Spaces, which are these big, multicolored, inflatable kind of funhouse things. They'll span a big part of a park, like soccer field sized works. The idea behind them is he was disillusioned after a while with making things for museums, for galleries. He wanted to make big public art that people could actually have fun with, interact with. So check out the photo that I have here. You can see what they look like, right? They're like these big kind of teeth-looking things, like cubes that are inflated, and inside it's like this big fun house, like a big bouncy castle, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the fifth iteration of these, Dream Space 5, in 2006 in Britain, there were two women who were inside this funhouse thing when the wind picked up and it flipped the whole thing over, and they fell out and they fell to their deaths. The ropes are holding it down broke. Not only that, it injured somewhere between 13 and 27 people with all the flipping over that it did. I've seen sources that say 13, 27, but it hurt a lot of people and killed two.
That's wild.
There's a video of it flipping over.
It really rolls.
It's like someone flipping a waffle.
Yeah. That's wild.
Here's the thing. Much like how Richard Serra works in these iterative series, also isn't the first time this has happened.
Oh my God.
Maurice Aegis's work. A previous work from 1986 called Color Space in Germany also lifted off the ground and injured 5 people.
Better rope.
I know.
Or stop building inflatable sails.
You'd think, right? Well, I mean, now that someone died, I mean, it's all pretty sad. Like he was tried for manslaughter, jury couldn't reach a verdict, £10,000 fine, eventually reduced to $2,500, but he died a few years after this all happened too.
Yeah, sad. You just want to like make fun stuff for people to have fun in, and then some contractor gave you bad specs or something, but you're ultimately at fault.
And I really think about because we've worked quite a bit in installation, nothing quite of this scale, but that me asking about the insurance part of it, I'm kind of curious because a lot can go wrong because there's no oversight for installing. Like maybe in a museum there is, but in these artist run spaces and stuff, and I'm not saying don't go to these. They're great to go to and support, but no one's asking you like, what are your credentials for building this crazy thing in here?
Yeah. Luckily, usually people aren't building super crazy stuff.
So what do we learn from all this? All art is dangerous.
All art is dangerous. Also, you will only be spared if you make temporal sand art that cannot be commercialized.
Oh, yeah. Like
at the end when John Malkovich is making his little sand art at the beach house.
Just hanging on the beach, drawing swirls in the sand.
He looks really happy.
He does.
I want a whole movie about him.
I like John Malkovich's character.
Yeah, he's a good one in a film full of dummies. Like,
he also disappears an hour into the movie, which is where arguably it should have ended.
I know.
It would seem as though, other than all art is dangerous, like the kind of final takeaway is the monetization of art is at its core terminal.
Yeah, I mean, the movie tries very hard to say that, and capitalism comes for everything.
Are you trying to tell me that there is no ethical consumption under capitalism?
Well, not of art, at least.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to tell you is we should all go for Froyo at Art Basel Miami, sponsored by Capital One.
I also feel like something that maybe the movie is trying to say, but Pierce is only able to go do his ephemeral beach art because he's already made it in the commercial art world. Right? You only get there by surviving that and by thriving in that toxic space.
And by being Redora's friend who offers you her beach house for as long as you need.
You make those connections, you get those perks. And so I don't know, it's so weird to me that like Malkovich's character Piers and Denriche are painted as these like pure of heart characters who come out on the other, but it's like they both have had to do commercial art stuff to make their names. Just by saying he was signing with Redora to represent him got so much clout and recognition, even if he then pulled out. You could say it's a cynical move to just like get attention for his cooperative full of bikers.
You're right. The art should have killed him too.
It should have. And Coco.
I mean, I think there's an indication at the end that Coco may in fact die because when she took the cat, that is the final Dease work.
I feel like Dease would have wanted the kitty to have a good home, right? Though, maybe. I don't know. We don't really know what his motivations were exactly either. We know a little, but we don't know exactly what they were.
Just you wait until that cat gets a hold of a lighter or a paintbrush.
Or a gun.
Or a gun.
You know, like probably learning, dual
cat
skills from the monkey duelists.
Picked up a thing or two.
Yeah.
Well, here's a question. Not that we make any money from this podcast, but if we were to monetize in the future, would covering this film put us in the crosshairs of Dease?
Yes. Dease nuts.
Yes! Thank you. Fantastic work.
And that is
truly sublime.
Wait,
Miss Merrick. I'm ensorcelled.
I just want to say, critique is just so limiting because words cannot describe my disdain for this film. And with that's it for me. I think I've debased myself enough. That is going to be it for our two-parter on Velvet Buzzsaw. Thank you so much to Chris for joining us.
Thank you.
Chris, what do you got to plug?
Check out Layers and Layers on Instagram and Bandcamp. I have many, many beautiful boxes of unopened vinyl that I would love to ship to you for a small fee.
Thanks for joining us. You can find us online at untitledpod.art.
And you can see video versions on Spotify and YouTube with slides of the art, or you can find audio versions wherever you get your podcasts.
And you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/untitledartpod. And that's it.
Kisses.